third example, we want to find the partial fraction decomposition. We need to start with making sure our denominator is completely factored. Now, I know we haven't talked much about factoring here, but this is a more simple version of factoring. We're just factoring out a GCF. So between x cubed and x squared, the highest we can pull out is x squared, and that leaves us with an x minus 1. So the first thing we had to do, I'll just jot down here, is we needed to factor the denominator. So now that we have the denominator factored, I'm going to move this actually. Now that we have the denominator factored, we need to look and see, like, do we have linear factors? Are they repeated? So on and so forth. The x squared, it might not look like a linear factor, but it is a linear factor. It is a linear factor of just x minus 0 that is squared. And then there's an x minus 1. Okay, so let's deal with the repeated linear factor first. Because it is repeated, I will put a over x, or x minus 0. I'm not going to write x minus 0. And then b over the x squared. So remember, when you have repeated linear factors, you repeat them, increasing your exponent until you get to whatever exponent it showed up with. And then we have the factor of x minus 1, so we'll put that there as well. What we do at this point is now we come in. I'm going to change this just because I don't like the way that looks. Now we come in and we're going to multiply everything in here by this denominator. Okay, so everything's getting multiplied by x squared times x minus 1. Because what we're doing is we're coming in to cancel out the denominators. So the entire denominator on the left side cancels out, and we're just left with negative 1. On the a term, and you have to be very careful with this multiplication on the right side, okay? On the a term, the x in the denominator will cancel with one of the x's, because remember, it's an x squared up there. So that will leave us with a times x minus 1. For the b term, the x squared will cancel with the x squared and leave us with b times x minus 1. And then for the c term, the x minus 1s will cancel and just leave us with cx squared. So now, you know the drill by now, hopefully. We need to start distributing on the right side and simplifying what we have here. Distribute this, we get ax squared. Distribute to the negative 1, we have a minus ax. We're then going to go in and distribute with the b's. B times x is going to give us a plus bx. And then b times negative 1 is going to give us a negative b. And we still have that plus cx squared here. Now I'm going to start rearranging terms. I want to put my terms together. So I want to write the cx squared term next to the ax squared term. And I'll just leave this minus ax plus bx next to each other, and then a minus b at the end. So now we have to pull things out. I'm grouping my terms together. So the x squared terms, I'm going to pull the x squared out. That's just going to leave me with an a plus c. For my x terms, I'm going to pull the x out. I'm left with a negative a plus b. Make sure and take that sign with it. And then there is no constant. Oh, the constant term is just a negative b. So now we're ready to start equating coefficients. But notice that what's in front of x squared on the right side is a plus c. There is no x squared on the left side, which means that there was a 0 in front of x squared on the left side. So it must be that 0 is equal to a plus c. What's in front of x on the right side is negative a plus b, but there is no x on the left side, so there must have been a 0 in front of x on the left side. So it must be that 0 is equal to negative a plus b. And then for our constant term, we have a negative b on the right side and a negative 1 on the left side. So negative 1 is equal to negative b. To start solving these equations, if negative 1 is equal to negative b, that very quickly tells us that b is equal to 1. If b is equal to 1, let's go look at that second equation. We can plug that in. That means that the second equation turns into 0 equals negative a. I'm going to plug in what b is. B is 1 plus 1, which then tells me, by adding a to both sides of this equation, that a is equal to 1. So I know that a is equal to 1. Now we can go plug that into the first equation. If a is equal to 1, this equation is 0 equals 1 plus c. I'm going to subtract 1 from both sides to see that c is equal to negative 1. So now we have a, we have b, and we have c. So now we're ready to go back up here into this and fill out what a, b, and c are. So I'm just going to write my answer off to the side here. A is 1, so I have a 1 over x, plus b is 1 over x squared. And then c is a negative 1, so plus a negative 1 over x minus 1. And that is our answer for the partial fraction decomposition.